Doublelift has never had the most harmonious of relationships with the owner of one of his former teams, TSM's Reginald. For the past 6 years, the two have had a pretty complicated relationship, both professionally and personally, but last week, things got nasty. What started out as a bit of a pointed exchange of words boiled over into accusations of emotional abuse, bullying, and driving some players to tears. Alright, I'd say if anything can be called drama in this world, it's stories like this. And if you don't want to miss stories like this, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Also, leave the video a like if you feel like doing that and hit the notification bell. All good stuff. Doublelift, along with former TSM teammate Burke, is the biggest name in North American League of Legends. Even if you've never played the game, you've probably heard of him. Domestically, his career is still unparalleled. The guy has taken home an astounding 8 LCS titles as part of 3 different teams. He's done it with CLG, Team Liquid, and Team Solo Mid. After leaving Team Liquid in 2020, Doublelift returned to TSM to help them win the summer split after a fairy tale run through the losers bracket. When TSM went to Worlds though, things went disastrously wrong as the team failed to win a single game and crashed out of the tournament with a 0-6 record.
I can reset.
We can make it, we can make it. Oh, I can't make it.
I can make it. One Shen.
I'm fine, I'm fine. Care, Nidalee.
Oh, GG.
Oh, shit.
Soon after, the Dane in the mid lane, Burke, announced his retirement and stepped into the role of TSM's head coach. He has since announced that he's coming out of retirement to play again though, but not for TSM. Although it initially looked like Doublelift wouldn't be joining Burke in retirement, a month later he announced that he in fact would be. In his post titled Reflections, Doublelift reminisced about his experiences throughout his decade-plus time in the scene and asked fans to support him during his next chapter. In February 2021, Doublelift expanded on his reasons for retirement.
Basically, sum it up quickly, I just didn't feel like competing anymore. I mean, competing was something that I loved doing for 10 whole years. But I think I reached a point in my career where first, it was expected of me to win LCS, and anything below winning LCS would basically be considered a failure, right? It would be considered a step down because I'd been winning so much. And every single year that I came in, I felt really, really good about it. I felt like this is a team I really believed in, this is an environment I really believed in. But when Storm retired, I really didn't feel that same level of confidence that I normally do, and that's like kind of like strike one. It's like, oh well, it's like my one of my closest friends, one of the best players in the entire league that I basically joined TSM to play with is retiring. That obviously weighed on me a lot.
He also said there was nothing left for him to do in his career except try and make it out of groups at Worlds, which was an unfulfilling goal for him, that the goal of winning Worlds seemed unrealistic because the gap between the East and the West had widened, and that the lack of live audiences because of the pandemic kind of sucked. But that wasn't the whole story. Far from it, in fact. The day after Doublelift announced his retirement, TSM announced they were signing veteran support and recent Worlds finalist Sword Art from Chinese powerhouse Suning on a 2-year deal for a record-breaking $3 million a year. And because of this, a lot of people found the timing of Doublelift leaving a little bit confusing. I mean, sure, he had his reasons for retiring, but here was a chance to play with a world-class support that could truly elevate his game. Why would he walk away from that?
Yeah, basically what happened is we were in the middle of off season. I was thinking about, am I going to keep playing? And I think I did initially want to play just with the best possible roster that I could. And I was really excited for the whole Sword Art thing. They told me that Sword Art was confirmed, and I got really excited. And then I guess the negotiations were going really bad at a certain point. So then they told me, actually, it fell through. It's not going to work. Would you still be committed if your support was Palette? Since the beginning, I'd wanted to play with somebody who spoke English, which is why Sword Art was like so fucking hot, because he actually speaks great English for an import. And I always want to play with somebody that I can communicate with, because ball lane is so important that you can be on the same page and that you can talk through things. I did not want to play with someone who I couldn't talk to.
So at the time, there was a hint of animosity. Doublelift said that TSM didn't like him saying that he wouldn't play with Pallet, but by and large, it seems they parted amicably. That's why it was such a shock that last week, almost a year after he left the team, he dropped this bombshell on stream. And for those of you who don't know, TSM Reginald's real name is Andy.
Honestly, I fucking hate TSM mostly because of Andy. I actually remember this now. Yeah, Sword Art called me afterwards and said, "I'm coming to TSM. Are you sure?" Like, he still wanted to play with me. And then I called Andy and told him, "Yeah, Sword Art still wants to play with me, and I would love to, continue to play for the org." And Andy literally said no because he's got too much of an ego.
So here he's saying that after he left and Sword Art joined, Sword Art called him to try and get him to play with TSM again because he wanted to play with Doublelift. And according to Doublelift, Regi wasn't having any of it and rejected his proposal to rejoin the team. And for anyone thinking that Doublelift saying he hated TSM was just a slip of the tongue, he doubled down on his feelings soon after.
I went and got hotpot with Sword Art, and I think it was between spring and summer split. It was around MSI. And the dude was literally saying that if me and Bjergsen were still playing, we would have 100% won. It was like, just unbelievable decisions. I don't know. Every split I'm on TSM, we win, and still, like, get treated like that. It's just disgusting. It would be a personal pleasure of mine to see TSM never win anything again, because of how shitty they treated the people who brought them everything.
I mean, shit just blew up from there. Here was Doublelift, the trash-talking veteran, long-time face of the LCS, publicly stating that he hates one of the biggest esports orgs around. And not just any org, but one of the ones that he played with for many splits over the years, who he'd won his last LCS trophy with. And at the time of recording, it's also the org where his girlfriend is president of esports, although there are rumours of her leaving, which some think is why Doublelift has decided to pull the trigger on all of this now. Now, some of you might already know that, but for those of you that didn't, it gets even messier than that because Lena is also the ex-girlfriend of TSM's owner, Regi. Now, when it comes to this love-work triangle, there have been accusations in the past of a potential conflict of interest, most notably when Doublelift played for Team Liquid. On the TSM Discord, she said the whole thing blew up because of an argument, saying, "So like logically, both sides make sense, but keep in mind this is over the course of 24 hours, not that he, Doublelift, was given time to think on it, or Andy was given time to work on the Sword Art deal. He was told Sword Art isn't happening, not that the deal was going bad, that he asked to explore his options. Andy said, you have to commit or we will find an AD carry that will. Peter said no." Lena's intermediary tone continued when stating that the real truth is two dudes who have impossible egos to deal with. It's not Regi's side or Peter's side. And the dust barely had a chance to settle before Regi himself replied to the whole situation on the TSM subreddit in a post titled "Thoughts on Doublelift." It was a direct rebuttal to what Doublelift had said on stream. The timelines of what happened were by and large quite similar, but the interpretations were miles apart. Regi said that Doublelift told him he wouldn't be as motivated if they got a non-English speaking support for him, such as Pallet, and that, quote, "It's extremely discouraging for both staff and players to work with someone who is constantly ambivalent about whether he wants to play or retire." He also went on to say that it wasn't solely his decision to replace Doublelift and that it was a group decision. It was in the final section where Regi talked about this year though that things really took a turn. He said, "I'm assuming that he's upset because we weren't interested in working with him. He was exploring his options and we were not interested in working with him for these reasons. He's always changing his mind on whether he wants to play or retire. His teammates / coaches don't like working with him. If he doesn't like you or doesn't agree with your decision making, he flames you publicly." The ball had been hit back over the net. When Doublelift got on stream the next day, he clapped back at Regi's post.
And all this happened, by the way, it's just like, all blew up at once. It's like, okay, Andy calls me. He's like, "Yo, are you committed to the roster? Even if it's total shit, if it's Palafox or like our backup Korean mid laners and Pallet and like we don't have a top laner?" And he put me on the spot and I was like, no, I don't think I would work well in that environment, honestly. Like, I don't feel good about it. And then he's like, "Okay, well, f it then. You don't have a spot on our team anymore."
But all of the Sword Art stuff took a back seat as Doublelift really started to open up on Regi as an owner and as a person. He said that he shouldn't have initially said that he hated TSM because those accusations were mainly aimed at Regi, and when he spoke this time, things got a lot more personal.
People don't like working with him. It's funny that he has this holier-than-thou attitude about it because he's like a bully who gets away with being a bad person because he's powerful, because people are afraid to stand up to him. And that's what I'm sick of. That when I was talking to my friends last night on Discord, that's what I realized is that like I'm sick of somebody who's basically just a bully getting away with it because it's in everyone's best interest to not get in his way.
In fact, Doublelift said that Regi's verbal abuse of players was enough to trigger mental breakdowns in some of them.
He made so many players cry. I don't want to name them actually because I feel like it's not my story to tell. So I would just say that he made a lot of players cry. You would be very fucking surprised at how many of maybe your favorite familiar faces in LCS legit mental breakdown because of how badly they were getting berated, how badly they were just getting verbally assaulted.
This was on a whole other level. It's one thing to say that you didn't like how your old boss handled off-season signings. It's another thing to accuse them of verbally abusing their employees to the point of tears. Now, Doublelift didn't name any players in particular, but some did speculate as to who he was referring to. There was a clip from 2013 circulating of an argument between former TSM top laner Dyrus and Regi, in which Dyrus lost his cool with his former boss.
Why are you being so rude?
I'm playing a game, dude. Leave me
Okay, why
alone.
are you being so rude then?
Leave me
That does not
alone.
justify you being rude.
Alright, I'm sorry for being rude then.
Stop being a little fucking brat.
You're still f***ing going
Stop being a
on.
little brat.
I said f***ing sorry!
Stop doing this one more time. I said sorry! How hard is it to f***ing accept sorry, brat?
Dyrus tweeted out this past week saying, "I can't speak for the people after I retired, but nobody got abused during my time. We all grieved each other." He went on to call out Doublelift saying, "Don't downplay what my old teammates, coaches, whoever said involved during my era. If you are a victim, then by all means say whatever you want. Don't hold it in, go for it. But I refuse to believe someone like Doublelift is a victim to this." Another example was X-Special. Videos of the former TSM support in heated exchanges, including a clip of him crying, have been used to demonstrate Regi's alleged toxic behavior.
Are you arguing just to argue with me?
No. It feels like you're just trying to put it all on Turtle.
No, I'm not putting it all on Turtle.
No, you are putting it all on Turtle.
Okay, yeah, he really fucked up.
No, yeah, you are. Yeah,
Okay, he really fucked up.
Okay, yeah, I know that, but
So,
just say
why are you arguing with me about it? It's so true though.
Like, you're the best at what you do at your sport. That's why you went to all subject sport. It's really obvious. It's really obvious, but people need to do what they're really good at. And my mechanics aren't that good. I'm really good at shot calling, and that's what I specialize in. And when someone tells me like their judgment is better than mine in game, I get really frustrated. I can't play well because that's why I'm spending most of my time.
But X-Special tweeted out that he's still friends with Regi and that people's analysis of 8-year-old videos is ridiculous. Other former players such as Wild Turtle and The Odd One echoed similar sentiments, but there were others who backed Doublelift. Former TSM coach Burke said that 6 years on from his time at TSM, he still gets irrationally upset about working with Regi and that it was the most toxic environment he'd ever been a part of. So, after the original drama, the reply to the reply, and everyone else weighing in, where are we now? Well, it's important to split the whole thing into two parts here. First, we've got the whole Doublelift retiring and Sword Art joining story. Regi said the team didn't want Doublelift back because he was too flip-floppy. Doublelift said that Sword Art did want to play with him, but Regi's ego stopped that from happening. To be honest, it sounds like a fairly typical esports bust-up, not the highest stakes involved. But what happened after certainly is. Doublelift's accusations of Regi being a bully who drove his players to tears has already sent ripples around the league community. If the allegations are true and are later backed up by the alleged victims, it could have huge repercussions for Regi and TSM as an org from an employment and recruitment standpoint. Like a lot of things to do with TSM over the years, the whole thing has divided opinion. There are those who say that Doublelift is breaking his silence against a tyrannical LCS owner. There are those who are taking the accusations with a pinch of salt and point to the testimony of former TSM players who defend Regi, or at the very least don't see eye to eye with Doublelift's perspective. And in fact, this is also something that outraged Doublelift. On Twitter, he said, "Reading people's anecdotes that Andy was nice to them and thus downplay the fact that he harassed and abused people at TSM as their boss is just so disgusting. No wonder people don't feel good about speaking up about their abusers." Regi has not responded since Doublelift's rebuttal to his Reddit post. For now, the allegations remain unanswered and the story incomplete. It's unlikely that it all ends here though. Will the players who are the alleged victims come forward and share their stories now? Is Regi preparing another reply? And if everything that's happened so far has been so public, what could possibly be going on right now behind the scenes?